It's time now for The Law and You, brought to you by Gig and Jankula. We got Mike Giga joining us from the firm today. Mike, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good, not too bad, thanks. Okay, so we have another question that was submitted by a viewer, but before we get to that, Mike, what kind of law do you guys cover again?
Yeah, so I handle most of our estates, estate planning, real estate matters. Chris Jankula, my partner, does most of our personal injury, workers' compensation, and Social Security.
All right, so we're of course going to get to a question that covers your area of expertise today. So, is the surviving spouse responsible for the remaining medical bills once the spouse dies if there is no estate? Mike.
All right, this is actually a common question that I have when a surviving spouse comes in to talk about their spouse passing away and certain debts of theirs. So the key there is if there's no estate, which is a term thrown out there a lot that a lot of people really don't understand until they talk with an attorney. So if there is no estate, and these bills, obviously medical bills would just be in this person's deceased, the deceased spouse's name alone. If the bills or the debts are in that deceased spouse's name alone and there is no estate, then no, they would not be responsible for those debts. Now, obviously, any joint debts between the spouses would now be the surviving spouses, like if they had a mortgage on their house, if they had any credit cards in both of their names, those would now be the responsibility of the surviving spouse. So an estate, though, that's something I'm going to reiterate what that is. So a person's estate consists of the assets that are in that person's name alone when they die. So they're titled in their name alone, and they don't have any type of beneficiary designation to them. So you can do the reverse. What is not part of someone's estate? It would be any assets that are jointly owned. So if husband and wife own all of their assets, bank accounts, real estate, any other property like that, vehicles, if those are all titled in their joint names, okay, none of those assets are part of that deceased person's estate. Also, if the deceased person had retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks that have beneficiary designations to them, and that beneficiary is alive when the person dies, those are also not part of the person's estate, okay? So when we're talking about the estate, we're only looking at those assets that are in that person's name alone and that don't have a beneficiary to them, okay? That's the only assets that these creditors can come after.
So what would happen, I guess, if this were to happen and say it's something in the like your spouse's estate, they pass, and then, okay, where does that responsibility go?
So if there are no estate assets, then there are no, those bills go unpaid.
Okay.
The surviving spouse does not have to pay them. Now, I've actually had spouses that come in that they've actually started paying on those medical bills because, they feel responsibility to, they're trying to do the right thing, and obviously they paid for their loved one's care. But then when I talk to them, they say, well, yeah, we owned everything jointly, we go over the assets. I'm like, well, technically there is no estate and no estate assets for them to come after. Some people don't realize that, and you'll notice when they'll send a bill after the person passes, in the fine print, they'll say, we're only, trying to come after assets of the person's estate, but people either don't read that or don't really know what that means. So that's why it's valuable to at least have a consultation with an attorney that's experienced with estate matters to at least go over this, because you could start paying on something because people are trying to be responsible, they're trying to do the right thing, but you're paying on something that's not really your responsibility. I'm
assuming there's kind of a scare tactic involved with this as well. They start sending you those bills.
Sure.
And like you mentioned, it's that little fine print that, you got to make sure to read everything, but it seems like it's really important to talk to an attorney, talk to you if something like this happens.
And they'll be glad to accept your money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't mind taking your money, but after someone passes, if they do have, whether it's credit cards or medical bills, things like that, it's worth it to at least talk to an attorney to see whether, hey, where's my responsibility? Because while you do feel that you should pay it, you want to see if you're actually legally responsible to pay it, and that could save you because, you have to keep on living and be able to pay your own bills, and if you don't legally have to pay this, you should know that, and you should want to know that. So
this seems like it's really important to talk to a professional in an instance like this and not just, hear advice from your friends or something like that. So.
Yes. If your friends are not an attorney, a lot of times, unfortunately, it ends up being wrong or somewhat inaccurate. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Mike, if people need your help, how can they reach out to you guys?
They can either call our office at 814-946-1606 or through our website at gig-law.com.
Excellent, Mike. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that.